I'm Sonia, a personal brand and style coach. My journey began in the corporate world and through lived experiences has led me where I am today. I've walked in those uncomfortable shoes, faced the same challenges and questioned my path to professional success while simultaneously navigating my personal style journey and the challenges that each decade brings. I wholeheartedly believe in the fusion of personal brand and style strategy. My mission here is to provide you with practical, actionable strategies and lived experiences to help you unlock your next level of success through the power of personal brand and style. Let's get started.
Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Style and Strategy podcast. Today I'm going to take a slightly different take to my interviews because I am speaking with the beautiful Emma Walkinshaw, who is a multifaceted transformational coach, creator and facilitator, known for her commitment to guiding others towards realizing their potential. With over a decade of coaching experience and a diverse background spanning entrepreneurship, yoga instruction, and business development, Emma brings a wealth of wisdom and insight to our conversation today. I've actually had the privilege of collaborating with Emma recently as part of the Body Love Revolution online summit with a topic very close to my heart. So if you want to find out more about that and how maybe you can get a bit of a look in at the replays, check out the show notes below. But I would love to welcome Emma to the Style and Strategy podcast.
Hello, Sonia. Thanks for having me. Such an honor to be here chatting with you today. And yes, we did have a fabulous time on the Body Love Revolution Summit. And I could have talked to you for hours. I really love the topic around styling and leadership and women. So yes, delighted to be here. Thank you.
Fantastic. Look, as I was thinking about sort of the interview questions that I would ask you, what really resonated with me around the work that you do is that a lot of professional career women, and, you know, myself included, we have gone through this process where to some extent we've shut out sort of our creative side and quieted that down to really be able to focus on, you know, the analytical side and that sort of thing as maybe you've gone through the ranks. So I'm really keen to understand, you know, how have you worked towards with clients around clarity, consciousness, confidence, and can you share some experiences and principles around that?
Oh, yes, I love this topic. I find it interesting. I run a program called Embody Me, and I find one of the first questions I ask women, and I work with women from lots of different careers. Some are business owners, some aren't, most are. And I ask the question the first week and I say, do you think you're creative? And I find it really interesting how it's either a definite yes or a definite no. No one's kind of in the middle. And I think about creativity and how it's had a bit of a bad rap over the years. People think creativity is you can sing, you can dance, you can paint, you can maybe do pottery. We've almost put creativity alongside art. And yes, that is one expression of creativity, but I find working with women who are in business and who are entrepreneurial are the ultimate of creativity. And when we start to look at all the ways they're creative, there's this new sense of refreshed newness in owning their gifts and talents, because I feel like a lot of women don't own their gifts and talents, don't identify with creativity, when the truth is if you are in a position where you are in leadership, a lot of the women you work with in leadership, or you are in a position where you are the business owner, my goodness, do you have to be creative? Yeah. You mostly run from creativity. So in the program we talk lots about stepping into your voice of wisdom as opposed to your voice of judgment. Your voice of wisdom is very creative. And maybe another way, if we were to think in the sort of esoteric way, your voice of wisdom is ultimately your intuition, which is very creative. Your intuition is often finding a solution. And really, when I think about creativity, often creativity comes when a question has been asked. How could I do this better? Or how could we make this more smooth? Or how could we? And that's the creative side of our brain. So I find creativity and women and intuition almost, coincide with each other. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. You've raised some really interesting elements there, because I know when you're working on programs or things like that, you're always asked, oh, can you be a little bit more innovative around how can we save money on that? Because there's a budget around and we don't want to go over that. So figure out another way, right? This ongoing checkbook, etc. So you have to go back and you have to come up with these other ideas, which is very entrepreneurial actually. And, with the onslaught of sort of AI coming through all businesses, the element that really stands us apart is the ability to be creative, right? And use our minds in that manner as well. So, when you are working with individuals, can you share maybe an experience or a transformation that someone's gone through at all through that to get that sharp clarity and what that's actually meant for them?
Yeah, I find in the process, the creative process, we all go through this little cycle where we will initially, and I'm sure when I talk through this, people will go, oh, I've experienced that. We'll often have an experience where we have a really great idea. So let's even put it in like the business context. We'll have a really great idea. We'll have a business idea. And then the next thing that happens after the business idea, we're very, very excited. It feels very, very doable. Then the next part of that, which will come up, which is maybe a day later, a week later, hours later, the brick wall of frustration hits and we go, where am I going to find the time? Where am I going to find the money to do that? So I watch all the women they will come into the program, they will have an awesome idea and they may have already hit the brick wall of frustration, which is where am I going to get the time? Where am I going to get the money? And right there and then in the creative process, we've got a choice. We can either throw it in the bin or we can just pop it up on the shelf. And if then we choose to take it off the shelf, and this is kind of the classic woman that I work with, then we'll encourage her to bring it up down from the shelf and look at it. And then it either sits in percolation, where it's just kind of simmering. The cake's not cooked yet. Don't pull it out the oven. Just let it sit there. It's not quite done. So you're still simmering on the idea. Or it moves a little further on in the process, which is strategy. Then we start to maybe open our mouth and talk to people about it. So we go from the initial idea to the brick wall of frustration, time and money, sits and simmers. So maybe from the simmer, I go, I'm now going to talk about it. And then when you start to strategize and talk about it, then more solutions come. But in that simmer and strategizing, there's a few things we can do to help that creative process. And I'll talk because I'm a yoga instructor. Get on the yoga mat, get in a downward dog, let an idea come. Go and have a really long hot shower and let the shower gods talk to you, because they will have the next step. And all you ever need is usually the next one step. Or maybe sit in the morning and journal, put pen to paper. Then after you get that, so in the creative process, we've had the idea, we've had the brick wall of frustration. Then we've either said, no, it's almost like answering the knock. You get the knock and you answer the call, you kind of answer. Then you go into strategies, it'll simmer. Then you get to your illumination, which is, I know the next step, and you almost give it legs. You get it happening. And then if you can kind of allow yourself go into the future, then you get to the bit where you can actually visualize yourself celebrating the outcome. So every time a woman comes in, all of us have many creative projects or ideas that we have either put up on the shelf or had it in the bin, and it's time to take them out and look at them. And I find this very interesting because a lot of people, and you would have heard this before too, people will go, oh, like a book will be written or an app will be created. They go, oh, I had that idea. And I go, yes, but did you put it in the bin or did you put it up on the shelf? You didn't actually open your mouth, or you didn't take it to and allow yourself to visualize what it would look like if it was in illumination and celebration. So that's pretty much the creative process. So when I talk to women who are feeling a little bit stuck, or because the truth is we all actually have our own answers. So the work is strengthening your voice of wisdom, strengthening your intuition, and then taking action. That's that, but it's got to be inspired action. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's how I work with women.
Wow, There's so much to unpack in that. I love that because there's elements I know that when I get a creative idea or anything like that, you absolutely, you've described it to the T, in that you just sit there and you think, oh, that'd be a really good idea, but oh, there's a lot to it, and then you kind of park it, but you don't come back. I love that you've been able to create this very structured, actually, process to something that is quite fluid to give an outcome. So the question I've got out of that is, how important is that visualization piece to then get to this becomes a reality?
I think the visualization is very important, but the honing of your intuition is the daily practice. So I don't know if you know, Sonia, it's a free group. We can put the link in the show notes because it's a free group. I run a group called 21 Minutes of Morning Magic. And this is 3 mornings a week at 6 a.m. I go on, it's in a Facebook group. At 6 a.m., we meet on the mat. And all it is 21 minutes. We do 7 minutes of yoga because how the creativity and the intuition and the mind works. And particularly, I'm a yoga instructor. I'm from a yoga background and I love the philosophy. So I know that when we first get up in the morning, if we are to start to meditate or we are start to journal, we're going to get sleepy. Also, yoga practice moves energy through the body. Intuition loves to move energy. So in the morning, 21 minutes of morning magic every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday morning at 6 a.m. I meet on the mat in a Facebook group. I am live in my glory, my hair messy and my pajama top on. And we do 7 minutes of yoga. Then we do 7 minutes of meditation, and then we do 7 minutes of flowetry. Flowetry is just like journaling. So we sit and we have a theme each morning, because often if we sit to meditate, a lot of people say to me, but I can't meditate, the mind wanders. So I always give an affirmation or I give an anchor statement. So for instance, this morning's anchor statement was, I am unshakable. So when the mind starts to wander, you just bring it back to I am unshakable. This morning we did a few downward dogs and a child's pose. And then our flowetry prompt was, where in life am I unshakable? But that's the honing of the intuition, because if we can quieten ourselves down, tap into our voice of wisdom, which that's the one that answers us on the page. With your intuition and your voice of wisdom, we cannot write as fast as we can think. So if you can get pen to hit the paper, if you can ask yourself a really powerful question, let's say you're in business and you're feeling stuck, or you have got a problem, or you need a solution, or you want to really get the juices flowing around your creativity, asking yourself one really great question and then allowing yourself to write to see what comes out. That's where your voice of wisdom has a chance to express itself. So I find, yes, visualization is fabulous. The honing of the intuition then allows you to visualize, I believe.
Right. So effectively and this is me really just paraphrasing here, but to be able to get those words on paper and doing it on a regular basis starts to open that intuition up to then you are able to visualize it, because you're absolutely right that it's really hard if you aren't a person that has journaled before or done anything like that, or maybe dabbled in that space, that to say, well, I'm going to, break through this creative block and see and envisage my future self, that it's just, you go, well, hang on, how do I even start? So yeah, that's some really, really simple tips there around that. And I love that you've again gone really detailed around, well, this is what you need to do. Come join your Facebook group, and then,
Come join 21 minutes.
21 minutes does everything, which is great.
Yeah. And I often say too, it's not necessarily a time thing. We've all kind of had this misconception that sitting cross-legged for an hour a day, that I'm going to propel my life forward. No, it's actually in the very small things we do. And study has shown around meditation, it's actually not the time. Time's got nothing to do with it, because time's an illusion. It's the practice, doing it daily. Very small little steps each day. And I often say, if we cannot afford ourselves 21 minutes, we need to probably really take stock of our life, because 21 minutes, I promise you, is the gift that keeps on giving all day. Like that little bit of 21 minutes, that will gift you all day long.
Yeah.
And that's the practice, actually committing to yourself and carving out 21 minutes. That's the biggest hurdle. Then the intuition speaks to you. Sounds simple, but it's not easy.
It's like anything, right? It's the creation of a habit and being willing and open to that, and then obviously commitment and follow through. So, empowering others to find their joy is really some of the central themes in your work. So how do you transition someone from a mindset, maybe if they're feeling, judgment or, in maybe a negative space, to one of curiosity, right? Because we get impact around that, on probably a daily basis, whether it's in the workplace or as an entrepreneur or, a woman in business. So what would you say you really need to be able to help shift their perspectives around that?
Because of, again, the yoga philosophy is just a great grounding. And when I say philosophy, yoga is not a religion. It's purely a philosophy. We have sutras that we live by. So when we are in judgment or we are in expectation, yoga tells us, or the philosophy, which is yoga off the mat, tells us there's two laws that we can lean into. One of them is being the witness. So lean into the law of just becoming the witness. So witness is quite the neutral mind. It's not judgment, and it's not, what do we call it? Toxic positivity. It's neither judgment or it's just literally suspending all judgment. And that's essentially what curiosity is too. But the witness, curiosity is wanting to question, wanting to dig a little deeper, whereas the witness does not say a word. The witness just is in observation. The other tool that we use, or the other part of the philosophy or the law is really the law of non-attachment. So being really unattached to the outcome, because that's often what happens in judgment, wouldn't you agree? Or when we're stuck or we're needing an outcome or we're needing something to go our way. Can we just be detached? Can we be open to be surprised and delighted? Can we be open to it going even better than I thought it ever would? And I didn't even know. But when we're attached, often that's when we get into a bit of gridlock with someone else or perhaps the situation. So I guess to answer that, if you can practice the witness, if just an observation, say nothing, do nothing, and then start to go, where am I attached here? Where have I? And of course, we're human beings, we get attached to things. However, is it causing me judgment? Is it causing me pain? Is it keeping me stuck? Perhaps I need to just let go, loosen the grip a little. And it's very much the practice of yoga.
Yeah, very really important steps. And I didn't realize, I'm not a yoga person. I haven't been, but you're making me more and more interested on that front. So maybe it'll be a challenge in 2024 for me to be able to jump on the yoga mat, right?
You can just join me for 21 minutes, Sonia.
Yes, I'm going to jump on the Facebook. I'm usually up at that early anyway. So I normally walk through a little bit of my guests' history of how did they get to where they got to. So can you give me a little bit of colour? Because I love hearing sometimes the twists and turns and the decisions to get us to where we are today. So what does that look like for you?
So I started my working life as a hairdresser. And I think when we chatted the other day about style, I brought up, and I think, remember we talked about originally when I first started to dress myself, because I started as a hairdresser, you wore black. And remember I said to you, I had this thing, well, you wear black because it makes you look thinner. That was the story. So that was where my black came from when we chatted about clothing choices. And now I'm the opposite of that. I have a love of color, right? So I started my life as a hairdresser at 16, and I did that till I was 30. And I often say that's where I really became a life coach. Being a hairdresser, you become a really great listener.
Definitely.
Awesome at then, because every single person sits in your chair from young, old to, when I was in my apprenticeship, you do everybody's hair, and you really start to understand human beings and you start to understand wants and needs. So I really loved my time as a hairdresser, and I owned my own salon for 5 years, which was another great business experience, of course. So I did that until I was 30. Then I got a job I went back and I studied and I got a TAE and became a trainer. And I got a job as a contractor to training different workshops or certs to long-term unemployed people. So I trained certificate 2 in retail, certificate 2 in business, and I did soft skill courses. So I did, dress for success, and I did, which we just had a very small budget. We went to Target. It was a white shirt and black pants to get them to an interview, like very, very simple. And we do interviewing questions. So I did that for 5 years. But during that time, I actually decided to study to be a life coach. So I did my cert then. And I just felt working with long-term unemployed people, I knew that I could take them so far, but the skill of asking really great questions and listening was a wonderful add-on. So during that time, I really enjoyed that work. But then, the twists and turns of life, like we say, my husband and I decided to go into business. He was a solicitor, then became a town planner. So we started a town planning office. By this stage, I'm in my late 30s. So I'm now 48. So I'd done my life coaching, work with long-term unemployed people, and then I got quite involved in yoga. So our office that we opened, I went into the town planning business with him, and oh my goodness, it was so boring. We still own this town planning business. So boring. Oh my gosh, yeah. I'm so used to chitty chattering away, and because I'd had a role as a trainer and a hairdresser, and I'm used to all this stimulation. And in the town planning office, everyone's quiet. And we had 4 staff, everyone's quiet because they're writing reports, right? And I'm like, oh my goodness. Anyway, I got quite involved in yoga. Yoga studio was next door to the office. I did a lot of yoga. And then I happened to think, what am I going to do with my life coaching? What am I going to do? So I ended up one day listening to it wasn't a podcast, it was an app, Hay House Radio. Remember beautiful Louise
yes.
Hay, You Can Heal Your Life? She
Yes.
had a radio show, and a woman was on there by the name of Jennifer Grace, and she'd written a book called Directing Your Destiny. And she said, so this was 2016. She said, I'm actually going to be taking a group of women to India. We're going to do some yoga. We're going to do some photography. And she said, I'm taking these women, and a little voice. This is the thing about your intuition. It never shouts at you. It's a very little whisper. And I heard the very little whisper say, you're going. And I was like, ooh. So I said to my husband that night, I said to him, darling, I said to him, darling, have you ever wanted to go to India? And he said, oh, no, not really my thing. He said, what about you? I said, well, as a matter of fact, I said, I'm listening to this thing today and did it. Anyway, the long and the short of it was, Sonia, I was in India 6 weeks later, meeting that group of women on a retreat in India. So did that retreat and Sonia, I'm going in 4 weeks' time. I'm taking 13 women to India on a retreat. So very exciting. So here I come full circle. So fabulous. So while I was in India, I meet Jennifer Grace, and she said to me, look, I've got this fabulous program that I run. It's from the Stanford University. Would you like to go back to Australia and run it? I said, oh my gosh, I'd love to, because I already had my life coaching. Came back to Australia, hence that's the Clarity Catalyst I've been running for years. And I'm going through, like as we speak, the summit, the Body Love Revolution online summit. I'm just starting to shift a little bit of my work in that. But I've ran Clarity Catalyst all of these years, and I then became a yoga teacher. So during that process as well, we're all lifelong learners, aren't we? I went and became a yoga instructor. But even my journey of becoming a yoga instructor, so I'm a life coach, I'm still doing a little bit of work in the town planning office. I start to think, even though I'm doing a lot of this mindset work with women, I feel like we need, from my own practice, I feel like we need some movement to move the energy through the body. And I'm not talking about, the yoga that I practice is beautiful hatha, moon and sun. I often think yoga's had a little bit of a bad rap in the sense that we see, extreme version of it, that it's this, fitness regime. It's not. It's about movement. It's got a beautiful philosophy. Anyway, so I studied to be a yoga teacher, started to teach. So I would teach yoga and run my workshops together. And then I opened a yoga studio. Of course I did. So I had that for 4 years. So I only just sold that March 2023. And now, as you know, because I was dancing with being online and in the studio. And now I've sold the studio, which I had for 4 years. And now I'm online running my program and running retreats, hence India in 4 weeks' time with 13 women. Yeah,
Well,
really
that
cool. And I
sounds
run
amazing.
retreats. Yeah, so amazing. And I run retreats close to home. So I'm on the Gold Coast. So I run retreats. I've got a great spot in Byron Bay. So I run retreats there as well. But yeah, it's so life is wonderful. But that's how I got here. Originally, I wanted to be a hairdresser my whole life. And
Love
here
it.
I
I,
am.
I,
Yeah.
I always love those journey stories, and I must get my name down for your next Byron Bay retreat for sure.
You would love it. So
Yes.
joyful, so beautiful.
Sounds incredible. So, Emma, I've got three last questions that I asked every guest on the podcast. So, first one would be, what is your signature style piece? So, your go to piece.
I love a beautiful floral dress. I'm such a romantic and probably a little bit boho-y romantic, which is a very, like I said to you, wearing black as a hairdresser. And then, I finished hairdressing at 30, but now I love anything floral, feminine, soft, but I love a beautiful dress in a floral. Yeah.
Love it. Now, for those listeners maybe looking for a little bit of inspiration, do you or have you been reading anything or maybe heard anything on Audible or whatever that might be classified as a transformational read for you?
Oh, I have been reading lately. The book that I have been reading is Your Body's Not an Apology. So this beautiful woman, now I can't think of the author, I can have a quick skizzy, but yes, Your Body's Not an Apology has been really quite instrumental. It is by, Sonia, her name's Sonia Renee Taylor. The Body is Not an Apology. And just around the whole body acceptance, body love journey, and now me accepting not having to wear black anymore, going, I'm going to wear a beautiful floral dress. Even my journey of becoming a yoga teacher in a size 14 to 16 body has been a process of me coming into myself and all of the, I guess you could say, the mindset work, losing the outdated beauty standards, losing that diet culture mentality, and really embracing this beautiful body. And hence why now I love a beautiful floral dress. Before it would have been black. But yes, that book, Your Body's Not an Apology, is tremendous just for that beautiful acceptance. Yeah.
Great, thank you. And I think you've given us a lot of these already, but if you had to pick one mindset ritual for those days where we need an extra boost, which one would it be?
It's definitely take a beautiful walk by yourself without your phone, without a doubt. Because I feel like back to that saying, you have your own answers, but the tip is to try and quieten your mind and allow your voice of wisdom to talk to you because you have the answer. You actually do. I believe you do. Yeah.
Yeah. That's incredible, Emma. Thank you so much for being on the Style and Strategy podcast. If someone wants to find you, I will definitely have all the details in the show notes, but do you just want to clarify where's the best place to locate you?
Yes, you could find me on Instagram with Emma_Walkinshaw. And you can find me 21 Minutes of Morning Magic, which is the Facebook group. But mostly you'll find me on Instagram or my Facebook, Emma Walkinshaw, Transformational Coach. But find me there and all my details are there. But thank you, Sonia. It's been absolutely wonderful to chat, as always.
Thanks, Emma. Really appreciate you taking the time. You take care.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being part of this inspiring episode. If you found value in today's discussion, please don't keep it a secret. Share it with a friend on social media, tag me at Your Style Collective, and leave a review. Your support means the world. Join me again next week for another empowering episode of Style and Strategy, the leadership series. Thanks so much for tuning in. And remember, you're already taking that first step towards your transformation journey. See you next time.